Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the virtual roadshow session from Swiss Resource Capital AG. My name is Jochen Steiger. I'm the founder and CEO, and we have today here Aztec Minerals with Simon Dyakowski, the CEO. Good morning to Canada. How are you, Simon?
Good afternoon to Switzerland and Europe, and good day to everybody. I'm doing very well. Thanks a lot for another opportunity to come on and chat with your audience today, Jochen.
Yeah, fantastic. No, thanks for taking the time. Always appreciate it because you have to get up quite early. Yeah, as I'm today in Austria, I'm moderating this session from here. Let me do some remarks on the legal situation. We are fully complying with European data security law, also Switzerland and Great Britain. Nobody can see each other, no names, no emails. We want to have Simon, of course, to do like 20-25 minutes presentation of Aztec Minerals, that we get a real idea and an update. I'm a shareholder of the company, of course, and also afterwards we want to have a lively Q&A discussion. Please use the chat function or the Q&A only function to type in your questions. I will moderate them and ask them also for you, to Simon, and so we want to have a good discussion afterwards and see what's really going on and where the potential is. Yeah, so attendees are still checking in. That's great. But I would say I bring up now the presentation, Simon, and I would say the floor is yours.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thanks for everybody who has taken the time to dial in, and for everybody who's going to watch this later. I'm excited to present and give an update on the Aztec story for those that are already involved. So Aztec, we are focused on two emerging discoveries in North America. We're an exploration company, of course, but we're very fortunate because both of the projects that we've been exploring have yielded discoveries. So we're now in the post-discovery phase and pre-resource phase for both of our projects. One of our projects is located in Sonora, Mexico. That's the Cervantes porphyry gold copper project. And then our other project is in southeastern Arizona in the Tombstone silver district, and that is focused on gold and silver. Now, I will be making some forward-looking statements during my presentation, so we caution you in that respect and encourage you to review our legal disclaimer, which can be found on our website. So as a quick overview for those who are new to the Aztec story, as I mentioned, we are a mineral exploration company. We're focused on making big discoveries that can potentially fill the production pipeline for mid-tier and senior gold and silver producers that are looking to replenish their reserves. That's typically how exploration companies have the most success and how exploration investors have the most leverage to upside gains. With any exploration or mining company, one of the key success factors is having an experienced board and management team with a proven track record in creating value all the way through the cycle, through discovery, development, producing mines, and also in selling companies and assets. And we have that on our team, which I'll get into in a minute. We're also very much focused on mining-friendly jurisdictions. There's a lot of political risk in the world, and that's something that we want to minimize to the best of our ability. To that end, our projects are located in two mining-friendly countries, in Mexico and in the United States, but particularly the states within those countries that we're located in are known to be some of the most mining-friendly. And those are Sonora in Mexico, which has a very significant proportion of Mexico's total gold production comes out of Sonora. And a lot of those gold mines are actually operated by Canadian companies. So that is a good indication for us of political stability moving forward. And again, in Arizona is known to be one of the most mining-friendly states in the United States. And as an added bonus, our project there is located on private land, which really simplifies the permitting process when it comes time to putting a mine into production. So I'll touch on the highlights of our emerging discovery in Sonora, Mexico. That's known as Cervantes. It's a large project, and we've drilled off a good portion now that I'll show you in subsequent slides. We've completed now 2 phases of drilling, one back in 2017-18, and then one earlier this year. Both of those were very successful, and they've led us now to a 3rd phase of drilling, which is just wrapping up right now, and we have some results pending from that. And the highlights from those programs are a discovery hole last spring, which was 137 meters, averaging 1.5 grams per ton gold. And we have lots of targets on the property, which we'll talk about. Similarly, in Tombstone, Arizona, we've made a discovery there. We call it an emerging gold silver discovery. And what we've done there is gone into a historic silver district that had very significant silver production back between 1880 and 1940, and was more recently in production as an open pit heap leach mine, again on private ground in southeastern Arizona. And what we've done there is drilled in the bottom of the small open pit operation that was going in the mid to late 80s, and we've discovered a lot more mineralization in the bottom of that pit floor. So we're very excited. And the headline grade that we drilled there was 32 meters of 6.3 grams per ton gold equivalent in oxides. And we do have some upside with other untested deep targets there. Management directors. So again, this is very important to have people involved in your company that have a track record of success. Myself, I've been in the corporate finance, corporate development realm for the last 15 years, but the rest of our board and management is populated by more mining geologists and entrepreneurs, led by Alan David Heil. So he's got almost 40 years of experience. He's our VP exploration. He's based down in Colorado. Very experienced geologist, and he's been credited with a hand in the discovery of more than 30 million ounces of gold and 25 million tons of copper. And a lot of this experience has been in South America, also in Nevada and in the Western United States. So, right near where we're located right now. Mark Rebliati. So Mark has been credited with a number of porphyry discoveries, and for his efforts, he's been inducted into the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame. He's a very, very well-known geologist, and he is active on our board of directors and our technical committees. Also, Pat Veris. So Pat's had some experience in building and selling companies from exploration success through to development. Western Potash is one, and Far West Mining is another. So some very strong geologists on our team. In terms of capital structure, so we currently have a market cap in Canadian dollars of about 22 million. We have, as of our last quarter, 3.6 million in working capital. And for those investors that have seen the story before, this slide will be different for you, because we have, in the last 6 months, added some new and strategic notable shareholders. Chiefly among them is Alamos Gold. They came in a strategic financing in May of 2022, and that closed in June. And they came in and bought about 10% of our shares. So that was a very big step forward for the company, almost a validation of the exploration success that we had, in that it impressed a mid-tier mining company to come in and get involved in our company and support our drilling efforts going forward. So that was a big, big milestone for the company. And also on the back of that news, we had an opportunity to consolidate 100% ownership of our Cervantes project in Sonora, Mexico. So that resulted in our former joint venture partner, Kootenay Silver, now becoming an over 10% shareholder. We issued them 10 million shares out of our treasury and left them with a 0.5% NSR on the property. And then in a recent financing, we had some small cap gold funds become involved in a financing, including Mermican Capital and EMA Fund. So those are some very steady and notable investors, and it's really helped bolster our shareholder role to the point now where almost half of our shares are held either between reporting insiders or a very closely held group that's been involved with the story since inception. Now, you'll see on the bottom right hand of the screen here, I'll use this circling thing to draw your attention to it. We have some, oh, is it working?
Yep, it's working, yep.
Oh, maybe it's not working for
me. No,
it
is. Hang on. No, it's working. Now, please draw.
Please draw. Let me see
take the mouse, stay on the mouse, like this.
Yeah, no, I don't think it is working. No. It's okay. So just, anyway, sorry about that. If we look at the table on the bottom, we don't really need the drawer to show this, but we are, we've taken a few companies that have made discoveries but have yet to put a resource out and compared ourselves to them. Goliath, Minorum, Azimut, Reina. Now, these are obviously in different stages and in different parts of the world, but the common thread is they've made discoveries, they've been financed, and they don't have a resource yet. So we just highlight that we're still very undervalued compared to some of the other companies that are engaged in a similar strategy to us. Now, zooming out on the map slide to show where we're at. So Tombstone, as I mentioned, southeast Arizona. So this is right near the famous Taylor Hermosa discovery. This was made back in 2015 by a company called Arizona Mining. They were drilling in a past producing silver district. They drilled a little bit deeper through the silver zone near surface, and they found what is one of the largest zinc discoveries in the last 20 or 30 years. And that was eventually purchased in just 3 years by South 32 Mining for almost $2 billion Canadian. So as a point of reference, we're about 40 miles or 60 kilometers to the northeast of Taylor Hermosa. And then on the same map slide, but in a different country, about a 6-hour drive to the south, you can see the Cervantes project. And that is right near some very, very well-known Canadian owned and operated gold heap leach operations. So you can see our property is right here. And we are, let's see here, try this again.
That's strange.
Yeah, that is strange. Anyway, so we're right in the middle of this nest of properties. So you can see Mulatos, which is Alamos Gold to our east, La India, which is Agnico Eagle also to our east, and then Minera Alamos, a very successful junior company that's now building a mine called Santana. They're to our south. And then to our west, you have San Antonio, which is owned by Osisko. And then further west, you have La Colorada. So we're in a very, very good neighborhood. And you'll notice how the biggest mine in that region is actually Mulatos. And that is owned by Alamos Gold. And they are the group that came in with the strategic financing into Aztec on the back of our last round of drill results. So you can see that it's just about 50 kilometers away from us. So very close neighbors. And, you know, Alamos is one of the most experienced companies in operating and making discoveries in Sonora, Mexico. So we're, you know, very, very pleased to have them in our corner with their recent financing. So it's a big property, and we have 11 separate targets on it. So this slide just goes through, you know, basically circling where we've identified these targets. And we've really only drill tested 4 of them. Those are California in the north, California north of California, Purisima, and Jasper. And the rest of them haven't been drill tested yet. And we've now really focused in our efforts on the gold zone at California. So this is just a map of some gold and soil samples. So you can see where the red and magenta picks up. That is right on top of this California zone. So we've focused our drilling efforts there. And we have, you know, we have almost 50 drill holes into that now. And it's turning into a really, really nice looking gold oxide discovery that we are continuing to drill out. And you can see here that we haven't sampled the whole property yet, but where we have sampled has uncovered extra and additional targets to be explored down the road. Here's an aeromagnetic survey of the targets, and that has helped guide our drilling as well. And here is a map showing in color codes some of the drilling success that we've had, and it shows the pattern that we've drilled. So this zooms in. This is about 1 kilometer across, and it shows the California ridge, the California zone, and this is where we've drilled and where we're drilling currently. So our recent round of drilling was 26 holes, almost 5,300 meters, and we did RC or reverse circulation drilling. And you can see that we've drilled a grid pattern here, and the grid really was putting in parallel fences or kind of lines of drill holes north and south of the initial discovery that we made in 2017 and 18. And what the colors are supposed to demonstrate here is that the orange, red, yellow, and green show very broad gold mineralization in oxides from surface. And we've been hitting on virtually every single drill hole, save for a couple of holes that didn't reach their target depth due to trouble with the machine. And then if I draw your attention further north, you can see that we put a step out hole. This is almost 400 meters to the north of this main California zone. And it too is mineralized. So you can see in this little valley here, if you follow the topographical lines, this is all open for drilling, and it could expand this area of interest to nearly a square kilometer once that's infill drilled. But in our last round of drilling, we've really focused on putting in another 11 drill holes a couple of exploration holes, one down in Jasper, one down in the southeast, but really the bulk of them have been along this north slope because you can see the mineralization here is wide open to the north, and we wanted to further expand that or see, test the extent of the mineralization to the north. So we've just wrapped up that drill program. We should have some news out on it any day, or I should say that we're wrapping it up as we speak. And we'll have some results out from that program coming out through the end of October, November, into December. And all the while, we'll be designing our next round of work. But we're very, very excited. You can see here, this is almost a kilometer east-west, and it's got a width in certain points of over 300 meters. And of course, if we're successful in expanding it through this valley, it could be quite a bit wider. So potentially a very nice mineralized resource coming out of this one day. Now, some numbers. Let's get into the hard numbers here. So we had some very good results last spring. The headline hole was Cal 2205, 137 meters, averaging 1.5 grams gold, and that's from surface. So you can see that this isn't some deep buried deposit. This is near surface oxides, and the mineralization starts at the drill collar. So you can see that in hole 22.5. Now, about 60 meters over, that was hole 22.4. That hit 165 meters of 1 gram. So you can see the continuity there. Hole 12 hit 152 meters of nearly 0.9 grams per ton gold. Hole 1810, so this was a few years ago, that was our best discovery hole to date. That's actually what caught my attention and got me involved in the company, was 167 meters of 0.77, and now we've got 3 holes that are better than that. 140 meters of 0.71. This year we drilled 97 meters of over a gram, 118 at 0.63. I mean, I can go down the list, but we can all see it. There are multiple hits of, wide widths, call it 50 to 100 meters of better than 0.5 gram gold. And that is exactly what you want to see for open pit heap leach mining in Sonora, Mexico. That is a very typical grade. And we've hit these kind of grades in over a dozen holes. So it's a very meaningful discovery. And that obviously caught the attention of Alamos Gold, who, again, they're now our second largest shareholder after Kootenay. And they put about $3 million in. And that money is now being spent, some of it, is now being spent on an 11-hole oriented core drill program. And I'll explain that in just a second. And maybe I'll just flip back to explain that. So right now, starting in about late July, we spent 3 months drilling 3,000 or so meters in oriented core. And that is different than RC. So RC is chips that come out of the ground, and core is obviously the cylindrical rock that you see, typically displayed, in photos and at trade shows. But oriented core keeps the core in the exact same position as it was in the ground. So what that helps us do is figure out all of the structures deep below the surface so that we can then hone in on better targeting on our next round of drilling. So that's very important. It takes a little bit longer to do, and it's a little bit more expensive. But at this point in our development, it was something that is going to be value added going forward in further drilling out this California gold oxide, hopefully deposit. We've got to be careful with how we use the words here for the securities regulation. Now, excellent metallurgical results. So this is something I want to emphasize. We've done some preliminary metallurgical studies on the core. So this was the core that we drilled back in 2017, 18, and the results were good. So the oxide groups, the gold recovered in the high 80s. And even in the sulfides, it was leaching out. So this is a very good start to our metallurgical studies, has identified no red flags, and it's something that we will expand upon going forward with more advanced studies that will then roll into, potentially a PEA and so forth. Now we have deeper targets at this property. Obviously, we've had a lot of good success drilling the shallow oxides, but we'll talk, just for a minute, that there's a big IP chargeability anomaly below that California zone, and that's going to take a lot more drilling to uncover, but that suggests that there could be a much larger copper gold system at depth, more in the porphyry environment that we're used to hearing. So that is something that remains to be tested. We have a couple holes in, and it's helping us hone that in, but a lot of upside even still at the California zone at depth. Now, we've talked a lot about the results and the game plan, but here's actually what it looks like. So that pattern of drill holes that I showed you a couple slides back, that kind of the grid with the red, orange, yellow, and so forth, that sits right on top of this ridge line. So that is about 1 kilometer long and about 500 meters wide. And we have drill holes now basically on most of it, but we're now pushing forward to the north and into this valley to the north, which would be to the left of the slide, all the way up towards California North. So you can see it's potentially very exciting to mine because you're not really digging a pit down. It's very low strip. You'd just be stripping material off the surface and then we call it more of a mountaintop earth moving exercise. And that and the digging down, that can really drive a lot of the costs for open pit mining. So we're very, very encouraged by how shallow and near surface this mineralization is. So again, it's 100% owned property now. Perhaps last time some of the investors or viewers looked at this project, it was in a 65-35 joint venture. That is no longer the case, which is a big advantage to us. We've had 2 successful drill programs, and we're just wrapping up our 3rd. We're very hopeful that it's going to be our 3rd successful drill program, and we'll know that over the coming weeks as the assays come in and we report them out to the market. We have 6 kilometers of high-level porphyry and breccias in the larger property, so many, many more targets to test. So it's open in many directions. It's growing. It's caught the attention of a big company, and we fully intend on pushing this forward over the next year, and hopefully we'll catch a gold market while we're doing it. But so far we've been doing it in spite of the market. Now, maybe I'll spend Jochen about 5 minutes on Tombstone.
Sure.
Yeah, so we're equally as excited about Tombstone, although we haven't drilled it this year. But Tombstone, as I mentioned, is 40 miles, 60 kilometers away from Taylor Hermosa, and that's really why we got involved in the play. Was we went and found the next meaningful past-producing silver district to Hermosa, which was the site of Taylor, and we have very, very similar geology at Tombstone that they had at Hermosa. Looking at the plan map here, you can see where our property is located. It's this circle south of the town of Tombstone, and in the yellow, we've outlined the contention zone. Now, the contention zone is really where most of the action was, both in the 80s and 90s, and way back in the day between 1880 and 1940. So between 1880 and 1940, there were 32 million ounces of silver mined out of the district, and most of them came out of these little, if you kind of squint, you can see these little red mining symbols. So there was a whole, dozens of these little mines, and they were mining out bonanza grade silver out of little 5-foot tunnels. But half of that 32 million ounces actually came out of the contention zone here. So that's really the main structure in the whole district, is this north striking fault, and that's where the open pit was actually dug in the 1980s. So we have a photo of it here, but in the 80s, a private company came in, and without a lot of drilling, they actually heap leached for about 5 years. They recovered 75% of the gold and 60% of the silver oxides out of this small open pit with just minor crushing. And it shut down in the early 90s due to depressed commodity pricing, but they didn't really drill off the whole trend. So that's why we thought, when we got an option to acquire an interest in this property, that, well, there's probably quite a bit of higher grade gold and silver left over from the old timers, and even from what they were mining in the 80s. So given that the average heap leach mine in the Western US runs at 0.4 to 0.6 grams per ton gold, there's potential to find some more leachable resources here. So we've now done 2 rounds of drilling in this open pit, and we have found some spectacular grade. You can see the pattern of drilling here. So we've set up in the bottom of the pit, and I'll point out that the deepest portion of this pit, it's only about 60 meters deep. So it's not like we're going into like a kilometer long hole in the ground and trying to find a little bit more. It's more like they barely took anything out, and we're finding quite a bit more real close to the surface. So you can see here, we've put in about 40 drill holes over the past couple of years. And some of the highlights are on this slide. So, I mean, these are spectacular numbers for heap leaching in Arizona or Nevada or New Mexico or what have you. So, hole 22 in 21 was 65.5 meters of almost 2.5 grams gold and 66 grams silver, or 3.4 grams gold equivalent. This is all very shallow. This starts about 20 meters down the hole. Then we have hole 10, 96 meters at 2.2 grams. Hole 3, 32 meters at 6.3 grams gold equivalent. Hole 13, 70 meters of 2.33 grams gold equivalent. And down the list, we have a number of exceptional drill holes here. So what this is showing us is that, yeah, they did leave a lot of leachable material, but they left a lot of high grade too. Hole 21, 22, the first one in our bullet points here, this hole collapsed in bad ground, but the bottom 7 meters of this averaged 22 grams gold equivalent. So we haven't even found the bottom of that yet. We just lost it in bad ground at the end of the last program. You can see here on a long section. So this is north on the right and south on the left. This is looking into where we've been drilling. We've only been able to get down to about 150 meters. That's because, again, we were drilling RC, and as we got to the water table, the drill holes tended to collapse. So we have an opportunity to go back in here with a diamond drill, which is more capable of going deeper and re-entering some of these holes and seeing what happens as we go further down, and especially approaching the levels of the bottom levels of underground mining back in 1910, 1915. And you've got to think that if they were mining that deep over 100 years ago, it was potentially some high grade silver. And some of the mapping that we've uncovered suggests that it was a lot of the workings down there were just for development. They actually hadn't started production yet. So there's a good chance that we could find something more at depth, and we're excited to go back in and really continue to drill off this grid, get it in good shape for a potential resource, and see what's even further down into the in below the water table. So very excited to embark on this. Looking just here at some cross sections as opposed to the long section, that was that hole that I mentioned, hole 22, and the high grade that it bottomed in on the right hand side of the screen. You can see that's only 50 meters below the bottom of the pit. So again, this is not deep. This isn't something that's going to be super costly to access. So we're really encouraged with these results, and can't wait to get back drilling on this when the time is right. And then we have this deeper target. We throw this slide in just to show what the upside is if you drill deeper and find something. And this was what happened to Arizona mining, and a very, very well-known story. And a lot of people made a lot of money on Arizona mining. And they were, again, 40 miles away in the Hermosa Silver District. They weren't excited with what they found at near surface, but they drilled deeper and they found what's now, I think it's over 100 million tons of zinc at an average grade of over 10%. So very exciting. And the reason we bring it up is because we have some targets well below the pit that we've identified with old drilling data, as well as with geophysical surveys. So you can see these two blobs, bullseye targets below the pit. Those are about 600 meters deep, and they're right at the same horizon as where some historic drilling returned 7 meters of 9.1% lead zinc, so almost 10% metal value. Now that's pretty significant because it's north of those two big anomalies that we've identified through geophysics, and there's been no deep drilling underneath the center or south end of the pit. So that is something that needs to be explored as well on our property. So it represents some additional upside for discovery. And here's a pseudo cross section of what those targets look like 600 meters below the pit. You can see the pit with the surface line here. So again, that's a future plan at Tombstone. There's a nice photo of looking down into the pit. That's what it looks like. You can hopefully make out that it's very shallow, and we've been drilling along basically the left-hand side of the western wall and down into the bottom of it, and have had some great grades, and it really has not been closed off with drilling yet. So open in many directions still for exploration. So just to sum up, what we've done over the last 6-8 months. So June, we closed a $3.4 million private placement, which was a lead order from Alamos Gold, becoming a strategic shareholder of Aztec. Cannot overstate this. This was huge. This group is very experienced in Sonora, Mexico. They know how to discover gold and build and operate mines there, and they took an interest in our company. So we were thrilled when that was completed back in June. Then in July, another very important milestone was consolidating 100% ownership of that Cervantes project by issuing Kootenay Silver 10 million shares and a 0.5% NSR over the project. And then in terms of key next steps at Cervantes, as I mentioned, underway is our phase 3 oriented core drilling program, 11 holes, stepping out from the 2021-2022 discovery holes with our phase 2 RC pattern at California North, and Jasper. So three compelling targets that are being expanded there, and a bit of deep drilling as well. And then at Tombstone, we're in the process of permitting and planning a phase 3 core program that we hope to embark upon in the next year. And then just to sum up our value proposition, why Aztec Minerals? So again, we have an experienced board and management. So many of these people have made discoveries, operated mines, and sold companies. So those are how you make money in this sector throughout the cycle. An attractive valuation, 22 million market cap. We're trading at around 25-26 cents Canadian. Alamos came in at 30 cents. So investors that are considering it now, you'd be getting in below Alamos and actually below the price of our last 3 financings. So we've been able to finance at 30 cents our last 3 goes over the last 2 years because many investors are quite keen on what we're doing at both of our projects. And a good share structure, 90 million out, but almost half of it is locked up by some pretty big groups. Again, we have not one, but 2 great projects, 100% of Cervantes and a 75% JV interest in Tombstone. We have emerging discoveries at both. Porphyry gold copper at Cervantes, wide open for expansion. And at Tombstone, again, it's also wide open for expansion, particularly around that contention pit. And we've got that big potential upside with some deeper drilling there. So that concludes the update and the corporate presentation. If anybody, I think we have a Q&A now, but if anybody wants to speak privately, feel free. That's my cell phone number there. I think in Europe, you put the +1 in front of it, and then you can call me, you can text me, you can WhatsApp me, Signal, whatever. And you can also email me. And we could even meet up if you want to. So I'm happy to spend time with any investor, prospective or existing, and answer any questions. And we'd love to have everybody involved in this company. So that concludes what I had to say.
Super. Simon, thank you very much. Now I know again why I'm a shareholder in your company. That is for sure. So let me check on all the Q&A here. Just a second. Okay. Good. Let me see if there is another one. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. So, well done. Thank you very much. I'm totally convinced with your 2 projects. That is great. Let's get started here. Maybe with something we have in order already here. How likely is it your exit strategy? Meaning, Tombstone is quite big. Cervantes could be very big. We know Tombstone CRD requires a lot of money normally. So could it be for you something that you say, okay, we have taken so much value. You showed us the example within 3 years with 1032, with the takeover from 25 cents to $6.20. Is that something that you are also pursuing to be taken over? As expensive as possible, I would say.
Well, I mean, look, I'd say every exploration company is pursuing a strategy to get taken over. I mean, there's very few companies that actually go and build mines. But at this time, because we haven't yet found the limits of mineralization on either project, we're still in discovery mode. So we're not trying to get taken out or bought out at this moment. We want to grow these things, and there's a lot of upside at both. And you mentioned Tombstone. We haven't even filled in the grid on what we've already found. So I think we do owe it to our shareholders to do at least another round of drilling there over the next few months to fill in that grid, and take a look deeper down. A lot of investors want to see some of that exploration, and the same thing with Cervantes. Until you find the limits, you don't really want to put yourself up for sale, because if you sell it too early, that could be not a great thing.
Absolutely. And also to our listeners, please type in your questions at the Q&A only or in the chat function. You are heavily invited to do this in addition to what I have here already. Yeah, okay, thanks. That's great. Let's stick for a second in Arizona with Tombstone, because that's the last or the latest one you referred to. How is it these days in Arizona with permitting? Water, we know from the past there were some issues, or let's put it that way, it was not so easy to do. What is it these days?
Well, I can't speak to the other properties, and I think you might be referring to projects that are on state or federal land. So I can only speak to our property, which is on private land. And Arizona at the state level is very mining friendly. It's that's a known fact. So I think the problems that you've seen in Arizona have been on companies that are building mines on either Forest Service or Bureau of Land Management land, where there have been, and I'm again, since we're not located on those lands, I'm not 100% up to speed as to their challenges, but I know that we have a good relationship with the water permitting department of the state of Arizona. We're working with them, and they are very receptive to our proposals. So for us, it's simply state level water permitting and air quality permitting and mining permitting, and that is much easier to do when you own the land that you're operating on. So hopefully that answers the question.
Okay, super. That's great. If I got that correct, you haven't done any drilling on Tombstone this year. Sorry. Do you plan drilling for next year?
We are considering a drill program in the first quarter. That is market and financing contingent. We have money, but we want to be careful and make sure that when we're drilling that it's what the market wants to see.
Okay, so that could be like whatever, up to 5,000 meters, maybe, if possible. Is that something you would say that might be possible?
Yeah, we haven't yet approved the magnitude of the drill budget, but it will be core drilling. The next round of drilling will definitely be core. We have done more than enough RC for now, but we want to have a more detailed look at the structures and go deeper. And that in Arizona, it's a little bit faster to mobilize. Like in Mexico, it's a bit more remote. It's not super remote, but you do have to build a camp and you need a few months to get organized. Whereas in Tombstone, we're right behind the town. So it's a matter of weeks versus a matter of months. So we can really move quickly. And the drillers love Tombstone because, you just stay in the motel and it's a paved road to the drill site.
Okay, wow, that's super. All right. So with Tombstone, yeah, but what we saw, you showed us fantastic drill results from the contention zone. I mean, they are really outstanding. And as far as I know, there was always a rule, like if you multiply the meters with the grams per ton and you are, let's say, shortly below 100 or well above 100, that makes a mine. If I do that with you, every single drill result is almost above 100 or well above 100. So it looks to me like that should be something we should be really focused on.
Absolutely. Now, I am bound by 43101 regulations with respect to reporting in that metric. So I can't comment on it directly. But that is a very useful rule of thumb to analyze drill results. Yeah, if you want to do it on your own. And as you say, I think that is the kind of rule of thumb. As 100, gets people excited. And I think we had like 8 or 9 over 100.
180, 190 I calculated already.
Well, there's one over 200. Yeah,
yes,
65 and a half over 34 or 3.4. So yeah, very, very good grades there. So we actually traded pretty well when we put those numbers out. That was in, I think, July of 2021. And we got over I think we got over like a 30 million market cap when we put those out, but then the market was obviously, as we all know well too well, it's been pretty bad for the last year. So we weren't unfortunately able to hold those gains, but we still drilled the drill results. They didn't go away, and we are going to go back in there at some stage and get them again. So we are very undervalued on those metrics.
No, definitely. Okay, let's go back to Mexico, to Cervantes. I find it really interesting. You showed us the map that I think 50 kilometers is Agnico Eagle away, 60 kilometers is Alamos away. So Alamos bought already like a 9% stake into your company. So they have already the foot in the door.
They do, yeah. So they saw our drill results and initiated a conversation with us, and we spoke to them, and it came to an agreement that they would be a lead investor in a financing, and the bulk of that money was to be used on a follow-up drill program. So that all came together very quickly over the spring, and we got it done in the summer. And yeah, so I think they and our shareholders and everybody is waiting to see how the results are. I mean, we've already got a very meaningful footprint of drill holes. So, I don't think the discovery is in question. It's now a question of how much bigger is it. So we will see over the coming weeks.
Do they have the right in the next financing to maintain their position, or maybe and in addition, do you have a clause in that they can only go to maybe 19.99% to make sure that you are not taken over too early?
They came in like any other investor, so
Okay.
there's no clauses really in their favor or in our favor. It was a straight investment, like if you or I put money into a private placement. But if they continue to participate, I mean, that's up to them. But I'm sure that's a conversation we'll be having going forward.
Absolutely. No, that's great. I mean, it's great to have such a fantastic partner already that early on board. I think that's fantastic. Let's put for a second again also the focus on Cervantes. I did also some calculations there, and all your holes were, let's say, between 70, 80 times meter gram per ton, but a lot of them were well above the 100, even at 140, 150. So here we have the same effect. It looks really great. And as you said, from surface, so that might be an open pit in the future, of course, and I think you said it already, that it would be really easy, like hill mining. I like that.
Yeah,
I mean, why wouldn't you blast just the hill away?
Well, I mean, that's where the mineralization is. That's how you would do it.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. But I found it also interesting that you said you did reverse circulation drilling, but also oriented core. Is that something which we could compare with diamond drilling? Oriented core?
It is diamond drilling.
Yeah.
It's just a more precise method of diamond drilling. So it adds a little bit of cost and time, but it brings the core up in the same orientation as it is in the ground, so it doesn't get twisted in the barrel. So it's a little bit slower to get it out, but then it gives you an exact geological picture of all the structures and lithology, so that your next targeting is much more accurate. That's why we did that. It just provides a much greater degree of clarity. Whereas RC drilling is great because it's a bit quicker and cheaper, and you can punch in more holes and fill in the grid. You do need to have a mix of both when you're proving out a deposit.
Okay, super. So the next drilling you will do there will be then again diamond drilling?
That we cannot answer just yet. So we're just finishing it right now, and we're going to be reporting the results over October, November. And while we're reporting the results, we're going to have our own technical meetings, and we're going to analyze the strategy going forward, if it's going to be diamond or RC or a combination, right? So I cannot answer that, but we do think that it's going to be another round of drilling before a resource, at least.
Yeah. Okay. Super. Then I saw very interesting results from your initial metallurgy, because as I always say, you can have the best rock, the best project. If you don't get the ore out, or let's say the metal out of the rock, you are toasted, right? And it looks to me like even your early bottle tests with your roll leach tests look very encouraging. What would be the next step to, let's say, fine tune that stuff, or maybe to do, instead of bottle roll testing, something else? Can you give us a bit of
Yeah,
background here, please?
absolutely. So the next step in metallurgical testing would be to do a column test, which is more like a simulation of a heap leach. And so that is going to happen at some stage for this project. Now, to do that, you need to have a lot of material. So we've actually drilled one hole in this program with PQ diameter. So that's wider than most drilling that you see is NQ or HQ, which is narrower, and then PQ is much wider. I think it's like 3 inches wide or something like that. And that gives you a lot more material to test. So we did drill one hole in the middle of the deposit, or in the middle of the California zone. I think it's hole 27, and that is going to be reported for drilling results, but also we're going to keep half of it for metallurgical testing probably next year. But that takes a few months to get underway, and it's a much more robust program.
Okay, super. Then you showed us also a map with great IP results, great IP map, I would call it, yeah, for deeper targets. So would it be an idea to say, hey, maybe we can start with an open pit, and if everything goes the nice way, that might be an underground mine then, in addition? Is that what I got the feeling that you want to say something like this?
Well, I think now that's all very forward looking. So let me just
I know.
Yeah,
just to give us an idea for the broader picture.
Yeah, this is all conceptual. Okay,
yeah,
so
absolutely hypothetical for the regulators.
Yes,
it's a forward-looking statement.
Yes.
Hypothetical. We are just speculating, please.
But if you find a big copper porphyry, it would be an open pit mine. But sometimes the trouble with porphyries is that they're very deep, and then it's not economic to mine them because there's too much overburden. But when you have, 100 or 150 meters of gold oxide on top, you obviously get paid a lot of money to take that material out of the way. So that's the kind of idea there, is that potentially this gold mineralization, if there is a bigger copper play at depth, would be like a starter pit, which would really enhance the economics of a much, much larger open pit porphyry copper gold mine. But to be clear, we haven't found that yet. We found the gold. We know we found the gold, but the copper is still, it's out there.
Yeah. I mean, you have to leave something for the next work program.
That's right. That's right. we're a small company, so we have to we have to focus on, what's going to add value incrementally at each stage. And, for a 20 or 25 million market cap, I think proving out this gold oxide is the right step at the moment. Same with Tombstone, right? I mean, the reason that we haven't gone and done the deep drilling yet is because we haven't really explained or quantified the near surface gold silver yet. So we need to do that first, and then look for further upside and build the value into the enterprise that way.
Yeah, absolutely. As we saw some photos from Cervantes in California, what is the infrastructure around there? It looked a little bit remote, but it does not mean certainly that you do not have any roads and stuff, right? So what is, let's say, in the next 10 or 20 kilometers?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So we have water wells on site, several of them that are permitted. So water is good. We have roads coming in from 2 different towns. So Guaycura and Tonichi both have access into Cervantes. So those roads are built, and power would be the only consideration for development to put in a power line. But 2 out of the 3 are already in place.
Okay, super. Then there is popped the question up: what is the cash position as of end of September? Can you disclose that already?
I can't disclose that already, but I can tell you that at the end of June, we had 3.6 million.
Yes,
we spent
I saw that.
$1 million US on drilling, less some G&A. So probably over 2 million, but I haven't seen it. We haven't reported it. But we spent money on drilling and G&A since the end of June.
Okay, super. Then I saw also a question here popping up in the last second. How many partners do you have at the Tombstone project?
Well, it's one companies that are partners. So it's a joint venture where Aztec Minerals, our U.S. subsidiary, owns 75% of the land, and then another company owns 25%. And they're private equity investors based out of the U.S. Okay. And they have to contribute their share of the costs.
Yeah. Okay, super. Last but not least, how do you see the current status of the silver sector, or let's put it like the precious metal sector? What's your personal feeling?
My personal feeling is that, I mean, I'm a silver stacker and a gold stacker. Every month I go and buy some, just personally. I think that with the way the interest rates are moving up right now, it's like a coiling spring for the gold market. If it's, I don't know if it's going to be in November or December, January, February, but I would guess that sometime in the next 6 months, with rates going up in Canada, let me just talk about Canada because that's what I follow the most closely. We were basically at 0.25% interest rate for 1 year money a year ago, and now we're at 4.25%. And I don't think it's ever gone up that fast, that quickly. So that is going to create problems in ways that we probably don't understand yet. And when there's problems that the market doesn't understand, people flood to gold and then silver. So I'm very, very bullish on gold and silver. Obviously, you know, running a junior exploration company, I wish that it was already higher. But I mean, let's be honest, the market runs on its own schedule, and gold is a, you know, it's a good predictor of future inflation. It doesn't really trade in lockstep with reported inflation because those numbers are already old, but I think it trades before the inflation starts, when, you know, investors see the behavior of the central banks and the governments changing. So with interest rates skyrocketing right now, some problem is going to emerge in the next few months, and then there's going to be an uncertain response to it. And I think that's when gold will have its moment. And it's only, you know, it's 1650 right now. I don't know what silver is today, probably 18 or 19. Those are really good starting levels. You know, we're not starting at 1,000 or 1,100 like we were in the last cycle. We're starting 50% higher. So we should not lose sight of that. And the next move higher could be soon. So I wouldn't, you know, I've been wrong, obviously, but at this point, I
Me
wouldn't
too.
yeah, I wouldn't bet against it now, you know, like
Yeah.
that's my personal take. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. Super. Simon, I do not see any new questions here arising. So yeah, we are fine. Almost an hour. Fantastic. Thanks for the presentation. Thanks for an update. And I think your company is really worthwhile to have a very, very good look into it. I'm a happy shareholder. I will stay as a shareholder because I see the path like you showed with the CRD with 1032. I don't know if it goes from 25 cents to $6, but I have a fair value for your stock already at over $1 in my research and my personal research. So I'm very positive on that. I would say please keep it going, and well done with Alamos. And thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you so much, Jochen. It's great to chat with you again.
Thank you. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that was our virtual roadshow with Aztec Minerals and Simon Dyakowski. I think you heard it, a great company, still small in size regarding the market cap, but this is where the beauty lies into it. This is where sometimes markets creates opportunities. And I think to be in the US and in Mexico, gold, silver, gold, copper, that is fantastic, the right metals, and that's exactly what we want to see. And with Alamos already having a 9 to 10% stake, that is fantastic, good shareholders behind it. And what I like is also insiders have 27% of the company. That's also really strong. I think it's worthwhile to have a look into that fantastic exploration company. So thanks for watching us. It was a pleasure to have you all online here. The replay will be tomorrow available on commoditytv.com. And yeah, wish you all the best. Have a great evening if you are in Europe. Have a great day when you are overseas. All the best, and thank you very much, and see you soon. Bye-bye from Austria today.